Today at Manchester Theatres, it is my pleasure to be joined by Northern talent Lenny Turner, who is coming to Lowry from the 9th of June in the Ballad of Johnny and June, the musical. Now, growing up in the North, Lenny made the use of all the different things that were there. He was a part of the Lowry's Young Actors Company, the Halle Youth Choir, and both went on to gain award-winning performances. Lenny made his West End debut in the hit show The Last 5 Years and went on to tour with it internationally. He originated the role of Josh in Halls. He has been in Guys and Dolls, Fame, For the Lack of Laura, and has not long got back from sailing the seven seas where he was Danny Zuko in Greece for Royal Caribbean. So Lenny, thank you so much for joining us today, and for getting ready to come back home, I suppose. You're from the North and Lowry, you were part of the Actors Company and now you're coming back as a professional doing your job. I mean, it just must be just like, what? Next level
It's a well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to see you, Karen. Yeah, it's a full circle moment for sure. The Lowry Young Actors Company, I was there when I was 16 and 17, and it taught me a lot about acting, and also it was just a chance to, not that I didn't like doing acting at school. On the contrary, I love doing acting at school. But a part of me just thinks that a crucial part of being an actor, especially a young one learning the craft, is just meeting different people from different walks of life and getting to do shows that perhaps you wouldn't get to do in a more formal education setting, if you will. So yeah, the fact that I'm now coming back over 10 years later, which is quite scary to say, but is a really nice full circle moment for sure.
definitely. You're still in your prime. Still.
I hope so.
So the Ballad of Johnny and June, we've got the Johnny Cash and June Carter story. Many might know it from there's been a film, but this takes a different slant, doesn't it? Because it's told through the eyes of the son, I believe.
Of John Carter Cash. Yeah, I was a big fan of the film, but I think this musical does an even better job at diving into both the glamorous side of Johnny Cash's incredible life, but also the not so glamorous sides. And in, lieu of trying to, rather in sort of trying to tell the story as honestly as you can, you don't want to shy away from those sort of more hard-hitting moments, if you will. So yeah, it's got a great blend of giving the audience a great time with the hits such as Jackson, Ring of Fire, Walk the Line, but also you leave the show learning a lot about his life and the important characters that taught him a lot
Yeah.
during the journey. And yeah, a big part of that, as you rightly say, is the fact that this musical is sort of told through the lens of June Carter and Johnny Cash's son, John Carter Cash, who kind of acts as a fourth wall breaker, if you will, to kind of dip in and out of the action, but also checks in with the audience to make sure that they know what's going on.
Sounds exciting. And what is so like amazing about, I mean, it's a love story of these two people that fell in love, but they were actually both married when they met to other people and they met on tour, didn't they?
They certainly were, and they both had children in their previous
Yeah.
marriages as well. So it was probably kind of a scandal of the day in terms of the country music apertures, but it all worked out well in the end.
It did for sure. And we obviously we've got the positives with the music and all of those things. And as you've said, there are some darker sides to the life, but what Johnny Cash did so beautifully was never lose his own voice within all of it. So he refused to have the Nashville sound put on him. He made his own sounds, his own rhythms, and even made albums in prison using the prison sound. I mean, it's astonishing,
Yes,
isn't
it's he's a remarkable person. I often joke with my fellow cast and say, if there's one person who's sadly not with us in life that I could go back in time and meet, it would be Johnny Cash. Because I
it?
think, as you allude to there, he was so authentic, which really, in my opinion, was one of the main driving factors towards his continued success and why 20 years after his death, we're still telling his story. And actually, not to give away too much of the musical, but there's a great scene. I guess all I'll say is where there's some pressure from high-end producers to change something. And very stubbornly, he says, "No, I'm going to do it my way." And it's actually one of my favorite moments in the show. So we've tried to capture that stubborn authenticity for sure.
Yeah. Oh, it sounds exciting. And one of the other things that's celebrated, as well as like authenticity within the show, is of course love, but music itself. And I mean, it's quite literally music that brought these two characters together, isn't it?
It certainly is because obviously Johnny Cash had his setup with the Tennessee Two, and then with the addition of W.S. Holland, it became the Tennessee Three. And June, having come from a very successful country music singing family with the Carter family, where they would write tunes for Border Radio and get signed by the Victor label. They were kind of two separate entities, and they just so happened to go on tour together. So without that sort of music foundation pulling them together, they might have only just met each other very briefly. So yeah, their whole love story was really started by country music.
Yeah. And what I find fascinating about them as a couple is that they've both got this like vivacious energy, but in completely different ways. So, like, Johnny Cash has got like this passion and this energy, but it plays out so differently to June's, doesn't it?
It really does, yeah. Because again, we touch on this in the show. June had an incredibly talented family who could sing. Well, I think June would probably say that her sisters were the better musicians.
Mm.
So she kind of from an early age kind of took it upon herself to, if it's fair to say, build this character that audiences were drawn
Yeah.
to and attracted to. Whereas I think Johnny was completely the opposite. I think, as we've touched upon, he was just very authentic and didn't really feel the need to try and impress anybody, which of course has its pros and its cons. But yeah, two very different personalities. But I think vivacious is a very good word to describe it. And obviously Western audiences are basking in the blast of that vivacious fusion. Yeah.
So you've mentioned that you were a fan of the film before you've come on board the musical, but how aware before the film were you of Johnny Cash and any kind of songs that just earworm, now that you're in the show, that kind of earworm and stick in your head?
I'll be honest, Karen, I basically knew nothing about Johnny Cash.
But yeah, it's
I was watching a series on Paramount Plus called Mobland with Tom Hardy, and the Beast in Me, the song came on, and my brother happened to be watching it with me at the time, and he said, "Oh, it's a great song, this, isn't it?" I went, "Oh, is it? I don't know it." And he sort of told me it's Johnny Cash. So there's a little funny anecdote to say how little I really knew. So the audition came through. I read the script by Des and Robert, fell in love with their approach to telling this story, and then some during it was during Guys and Dolls actually. Some people I was staying with at the time were asking me about the audition, and they said, "Oh, well, the first thing you should do is watch Walk the Line," which was a film that I'd never seen before either. So no, I definitely came into it a Johnny Cash newbie, if you will.
yeah. I mean, it is one of them things though. I think I only knew two, Walk the Line and Ring of Fire, and then I watched
Very
the
good songs.
yeah, and then I watched the film and I was like, oh, how has this evaded me? It's
Mm.
yeah,
I know because it did really well at the Academy Awards as well. Reese Witherspoon got her Oscar, didn't she? And
yes,
I
yeah,
think Joaquin Phoenix was nominated. But yeah, it was one that totally evaded me as well.
yeah.
So it was a very kind of pleasurable discovery.
So you are a swing in the show, one of the hardest people working in show business. So for people who might not understand, there's lots of different terminologies that are thrown that are thrown around. So explain to everyone what a swing is and what they do.
Sure. So there are two types of swings. There's an on-stage swing and an off-stage swing. An on-stage swing is where you do perform every evening. You're probably in the ensemble, but you cover two, three, maybe four lead characters or supporting leads, so that if one of those leads goes off, you then step up from the ensemble to become that lead character until the main person is better. However, I'm an offstage swing, which means that I don't actually go on stage unless if someone's either on holiday or ill. So there are four of us. There are three male offstage swings, one female offstage swing, and I cover four tracks. So basically, I'm kind of if there are any football fans out there, a good way of thinking of it is a substitute. You don't start the game, but if someone comes off, you go on,
Yeah,
basically.
there we go. That's a brilliant way of describing it. So, what are the roles that you cover then?
So basically, I cover every role, every male role in the show, apart from Johnny Cash himself. So I
Yeah.
cover John Carter Cash, the son, and the three male ensemble tracks.
Any favorites? Do you have any that you prefer playing?
Great question. It's probably between John Carter Cash, just because I've played guitar since I was 11, and he plays a lot of guitar in the show. So it was fantastic. It's a great opportunity to play guitar on stage. So John Carter Cash for that reason, but also the Man One track in the ensemble has some amazing acting scenes that I really like. So yeah, John Carter Cash for the guitar, but then I'd say Man One for the scenes because I love the scenes that Man One has.
Yeah, brilliant. And I have heard some brilliant stories from swings when I've been talking to people over the years of, you know, them coming on partway through the show. So they're not even, they don't start it, but they might come on like the substitute, they might come on partway through the show. But sometimes when it's a bigger sort of cast, that they end up playing two or three different roles within the same scene. And
Probably, yeah, but well, it's funny because you mentioned that I was in the last 5 years on the West End. So that job I was actually a standby. So I basically only went on if the main guy was ill. But on that show there was a cut-off time where basically if he didn't call out, I was free to basically not do
right,
the show. So I didn't actually have to come into the theatre. Whereas for this one, it's expected that all the swings are in the building. And of course, me not really knowing much and being naive, I was sort of like, is that really necessary? What's going to happen? But then you hear all these horror stories about people going off mid-show. So you just, the bottom line is you never know. You never
yeah.
know. And as you say, sometimes if it's a cut show where there are more than one people who actually go off, you might have to take the role of two characters in the same show and basically just sort of oscillate between them depending on who's got the most important bit at the time. So, touch wood, nothing like that's happened yet, but there's still a long way to go. You've just got to be ready if it happens.
Yeah, I mean, you must know this show inside out, upside down, and backwards.
Yeah, that's it's fair to say, but I don't speak any other languages than English. I'm ashamed to say I should probably learn something else. But I imagine it's probably akin to being able to speak different languages because when I'm in the audience doing a show watch, I'm kind of in John Carter Cash mode. And I kind of see the show through his apertures. But then if I kind of flick a switch in my brain to then go to man two, then it must be sort of like speaking another language, kind of. So yeah,
Yeah,
I'm able to kind of switch in and out of different characters. But yeah, I think it's fair to say I know the show pretty well
yes,
at this point.
yeah. Your brain is multi-tracking all the time.
That's it. Yeah, yeah.
So finally, then we've got you. You come in. You know, you're coming back to Lowry, and you. We talked at the beginning about how you started out doing lots of different things. What would you say to young people who are kind of thinking, oh, yeah, right, that is what I want to do. Where do I start? What do I do?
I would say there's no perfect way of starting. You've just got to start. You've just got to start and get used to the feeling of coming home at the end of the day feeling like so this is a bit of tough love. I do apologize, but it works in the long term. Getting used to the feeling of, oh, I'm not quite there yet, but I'm nearly there because it's such a competitive industry. I think the more you can keep that sort of white belt mentality of there's always something I can learn, I think the more you can kind of keep that and make that a part of your DNA, that will not only help your success in the industry, but also it'll fuel your motivation as well. So I think two bits of advice. There's never a perfect way to start, just start, whether it's a class round the corner on a Wednesday evening, or something like the Lowry Young Actors Company, and then always on the lookout for something else to learn. You've
Mm.
get in the mindset of you've never quite learned everything.
Yeah, that's brilliant advice, brilliant advice. And I think it's invaluable to young people who sometimes, the world becomes, they expect things on a plate sometimes because of the way that the world has gone. And it is that ethos of you've got to work and never stop.
It's a little bit of that because obviously, I guess drama specifically at schools is probably not as popular as things like maths, English, history, geography. So if you're in a class of, especially as a boy, if you're in a class of three other boys, the role is going to go. You've already got a third of a chance, right?
Mm,
So you can't, as you say, that can kind of breed into a mentality of, oh, I'm always sort of down to the final two or final three,
yeah.
but then you go to drama school and realize it's 200 or 300. So that
Yeah.
that mindset of always having something to learn will kind of help navigate and keep the fire nice and fueled, if you will.
That is brilliant advice. And thank you so, so much for chatting with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. And we cannot wait for the Ballad of Johnny and June, the musical, to come to Lowry from the 9th of June, starring our very own Lenny Turner. So thank you for joining us, and we will see you very, very soon.
Thank you, Karen.
Hello, I'm Johnny Cash. I've been waiting my whole life to meet you, Miss Carter. I'm gonna marry you someday.
Is that so? Well, I can't wait. Who should we tell first, my husband or your wife?
You wanna come on the road with us?
Johnny Cash, you trying to make trouble?
See the light of day.
Texas State Fair proudly welcomes country music's first couple, Johnny Cash and June Carter. I've been everywhere.